listening to Inside the Rings, your ultimate podcast destination for everything related to the Olympic movement. Here's your host, my dad, John Hawkins.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Rings. This is a podcast that takes you inside the Olympic movement. I'm your host, John Hawkins, and I'm really excited to have our guest with us today, Noelle Pikus. Noelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here, John.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about your beginnings, right? Take us back to your early days in sports, and how did you first discover the world of athletics, and what drew you into it?
Yeah, those are great questions. So first off, I started, my first introduction to sports was actually dance. So I grew up dancing probably from the time I was about 3 when I started dancing. I started with like gymnastics and things. And by the time I was 10, I was doing dance 6 days a week. So I was doing ballet on Mondays. I was doing jazz on Tuesdays. I had gymnastics Wednesdays. I had a boy-girl class Thursdays. And then it was voice lessons Fridays and performing on Saturdays. So it was pretty full and pretty intense. And that was what I knew was kind of the dance lifestyle. And that was up until, so I did that from about when I was 3 until I was about 12. And then when I was in 6th grade, one of my friends was like, hey, you should sign up for softball. And I was like, girls can do that? I know that's a very, this is in the 1990s, people, but, and maybe it was like my clothes, my parenting, the parenting style of my parents or whatever, but I just didn't even know that sports outside of dance for girls existed. And so I started doing softball when I was about 12, and then I started doing track when I was 13, and then somebody said, hey, they're having tryouts for basketball for the junior high team in 9th grade. You should come and try out. And I had played neighborhood ball every once in a while, but I really just didn't know what was available. And so I started playing basketball in 9th grade. So now I'm doing track and basketball, and then dance fizzled out. And then I started doing soccer and basketball. So I just, throughout high school, I did soccer into basketball, into softball and track, until I realized I just really wanted to focus on receiving a track and field scholarship. And that's what I ended up doing, was running track in college. And so yeah, it just kind of snowballed from one opportunity to the next. And that's how I was introduced to skeleton, was through track and field. So
wow.
Willing to try, right? Be willing to try.
I've heard that track and field athletes get into skeleton, bobsled, other things. So does that tell me about that transition?
Yeah, it's pretty typical, probably because it's a very natural transition. For skeleton and bobsled, our workouts are track and field workouts. We do a lot of short sprinting, a lot of lifting, Olympic lifting, and that really coincides with track and field. So for skeleton, I rarely sprinted longer than maybe 80 meters. Because anything above that was just too much endurance. 100 meters is too much endurance. But we would do, and we did in the beginning of the season, we'd do a little bit longer, maybe 300. And then as it gets closer to the season, we go 200 and 180s. And then we were doing a lot of 50 and 60 meter sprints just to try and work on that explosiveness. So track and field workouts really just it was a great transition into skeleton and bobsled.
So why skeleton?
Right? And why is it called skeleton? Isn't anybody else?
Yes. Why is it called skeleton, and why skeleton? You could have done bobsled, right? But
I think it's kind of why dance? Well, dance kind of was available to me. And then it was why softball? And it was well, that's because somebody recommended it. And then why basketball tryouts? Well, because somebody said you should do it. And that was really the same with skeleton. My junior year of high school, I went to Mountain View High School in Orem, Utah. And while I was a junior in high school, my track and field coach, one of the assistant coaches, happened to be helping out with the bobsled development program up in Park City, which is about an hour away from where I lived. And so just kind of one of those outlier moments when it was right time, right place. And he said, hey, they're recruiting track and field athletes. You should come up and try bobsledding. And so it was just like being that 12-year-old girl saying, I didn't know we could do that. That's an option. And so this was right before the 2002 Winter Olympics came to Salt Lake City, Utah. So it's really exciting that we're going to have the Olympics back here in 2034, because I am one of those real cases of by having the facilities here, it made dreams happen. And so they said, here's this facility, here's this program, you should come up and try it. I had no clue what it was. I went up and tried it, and it changed my life forever.
Yeah,
so yeah,
it did. So when you discovered skeleton, like, what were your first impressions? Yeah. That's what my first impression would be too.
I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, what is this crazy sport? I remember, so I actually did my junior year of high school, I actually participated in bobsledding. They were recruiting specifically for bobsledding. And I did that for a year and started driving first you start by being the brake person in the back. Yeah. And then I started driving the sled. And then they transitioned me to skeleton my senior year. And it was mostly because they lost the funding for the bobsled program. And they said, oh, skeleton is cheaper. Let's have you do this. And so in 2001, I started doing skeleton. And I just fell in love with the thrill. I fell in love with the speed. I fell in love with the uniqueness of the sport. I've always loved, I love team sports. I love softball and basketball and soccer. I love team sports, but track and field is really where my gem is. I love track because I love the individuality of it, where it's it's on me. If I don't succeed, I have no one to blame but myself. If I want to get better, I have no one to look, I need to go find the right coaches and things like that. But that was the same with skeleton. I just loved the thrill and the adrenaline and the let's figure this out and get it right type of mentality.
That's awesome. I think my first impression would be what am I doing going head first down?
Well, that came too. That was there too, John. That was there for the first fight. Well, it still was, even up until my last rundown. I was going to say the first 1,000 times, but even at the end, I was still thinking, holy cow, what am I doing here today?
So when you started in skeleton, I remember in the 2002 Olympics, Jimmy Shea.
Yeah.
That was the one event that I went to. I was a starving college student at the time.
That's awesome. You got
my wife and I went to the skeleton and saw Jimmy Shea. So when you transitioned, or not transitioned, when you kind of took on the next generation of skeleton athletes in the United States, it was this is, we've known each other for a little while, right? So I was oh, this is awesome, so, but were there any key mentors that you had in skeleton that you can kind of point to that really helped develop your success, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely was inspired. I was very inspired by Jimmy Shea, Tristan Gale, and Leanne Parsley when they all won medals here on the home track, 2002 Salt Lake Games. I was very, very inspired. I was actually, during that time, a track and field athlete at the University of Utah. I was competing in 10 events, which is kind of crazy, but I love track. Like I said, I love track. Yeah. I did something called the heptathlon. So that's high jump, long jump, shot put, javelin, the 100-meter hurdles, the 200, the 800. And then I also did throwing with discus, hammer, and weight throw. So I was actually at an indoor competition. So they moved all of the University of Utah athletes out of their dorms, out of their position, and they stopped school for those weeks during the Olympic Games in 2002 so that the Olympic Village could come in and kind of take over. So even though I had started doing skeleton, I actually was displaced during the Olympic Games and wasn't able to go participate in anything because we were sent to up north to Pocatello, Idaho, for that whole 3-week span. So it was for us, we were so out of the loop. We didn't even know what was going on. We were just competing in different track meets. And while I was there, I remember getting done with the practice and telling my coach, I have to be home because it's the women's skeleton race today and I have to see it on TV. And we rushed back to back at the hotel. I got back to the hotel, turned on the TV and just like sat there and watched as Leanne and Tristan came across and they won silver and gold and were jumping up and hugging each other. And I remember in that moment, that was the moment for me when I sat there watching that TV screen and I told myself, that will be me in 4 years. I am going to be there 4 years from right now. And it was kind of a cool promise to myself and commitment because I've had goals, obviously. Like I've had goals like I want to hit this mark in track or I want to get a scholarship or things like that. But feeling that fire and seeing that passion and seeing the community come together and rally around these athletes on their home track, I wanted that so badly. So it was fun. It was good. And that's when I really recommitted myself to developing as a better athlete in skeleton.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's amazing. I didn't realize that you were not even in Utah during the Olympics.
I wasn't even there. They kicked us out and said, good luck.
Wow. All right. Well, that makes sense.
I know.
You gotta. So tell us about your first major achievement in skeleton and kind of, obviously you've been a very successful athlete in skeleton, but what was that first achievement that you had?
I think there are a handful of firsts, and every first opened up my mind to future opportunities and possibilities. So the first, at the very, very foundation of it, I think was the first win anyway. It was junior nationals for the U.S. team, and I actually finished second.
Okay.
And so I finished second this was after my first year trying skeleton, and I was in high school. And I remember receiving this little pyramid trophy type thing, like a little memento, whatever. It was like a pyramid, and first place got a really big one. And I remember when I received that, though, I actually, aside from me being super competitive and saying, I want to be in first place, aside from that, I think just receiving that little memento, just that little thing saying you are the second place in the U.S. in the junior category, I realized I had the ability to be something in this sport, to go out and to achieve something. And so that kind of lit a little fire. Like it's this little drops of oil in your lamp, and it just kept increasing and increasing, and the flame kept getting brighter and brighter. So following that one, I went to our national trials, with all the big athletes. And from there, I finished fourth on the U.S. team, which was quite well. But it put me on the sophomore junior varsity team. But I was like, okay, I do have something. And then the next year I ended up being placed on the varsity, the World Cup team. Yeah. And it's just all these little wins that started saying, I no longer see my competitors as someone on a pedestal. I can now see them as side by side. Yeah. And once it came to that point, the real moment when it came to that point was heading into the 2004 season, when I showed up at a World Cup competition, and when I crossed the finish line, the first race of the season, I had figured some things out over the summer that I really wanted to implement and work on. And when I looked at the clock after that run, I remember seeing a number 1 next to my name. And that was that. And so that put me first in the world, and first at that World Cup race. And it was in that moment, I said, that's what it was. I can do this. I can do this. And seeing those that I'd always looked up to for years saying, wow, that's amazing. They're so good. And now I was able to say, wow, you've got some strengths. You've got some strengths. I've got strengths. We all have weaknesses. And now let's put them on the table and just see where we land. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. And that was your 4th year into skeleton?
Yeah.
Number 1 in the world?
It was my third season. Yeah. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was the 2004 to 2005 season is when I finished first in the world. So it was crazy.
And then your first Olympics were 2006.
So at our Olympic trials October of 2005, we had our Olympic trials, and I was ranked first in the world, expected to go on to the Olympics in Torino, Italy. And at our trials, a bobsled was sent down the track without us knowing.
That's right.
And it crashed into me. And so it broke my leg. My bones came out. It was a mess. And so I missed those Olympic Games. So I missed the 2006 games when I promised myself, in 2002, watching that screen in that hotel room in Pocatello, Idaho, I will be there 4 years from now. And then being first in the world and expecting to go, and then an accident comes. But you know what? John, we all have bobsleds in our lives. We all have those days where something blindsides us on a Tuesday morning, and we don't know where it came from, and we don't know how we're going to move forward. But we all experience those. And what it comes down to, when I got hit by this bobsled, I still remember this to this day. Going into surgery, having a titanium rod and screws placed in my leg, and then coming out of surgery, my doctor opened the door and she saw me crying. I was so sad. I missed the Olympic Games. I was going to miss it. My family had tickets and I was just devastated.
Yeah.
And I remember her walking in with her clipboard and looking up and asking me, "Why are you crying? You have a choice to make." So think about this with the bobsleds, that you face, or that those that are listening are facing. You have a choice. You can either look back and be upset and angry and frustrated at what happened to you, or you can choose to move forward.
Yeah.
Crying's not going to fix it. Your leg is broken. And so in that moment, she helped me to realize that we have a choice. When those blindside bobsleds hit our lives, we have a choice to make. We can choose to learn from it and grow from it and help others because of it and have compassion, or we can choose to be miserable and have it hold us back. And so that was really one of those turning points in my career and in my life.
So where'd you find the motivation? I mean, and maintain your focus during the tough times of like reconstructing your leg and getting your strength back, and where does that motivation come from?
Well, a big part of it is is my faith. I just have a really strong faith that God knows who I am, that he knows who we are, and he knows our challenges, and he wouldn't give us anything if he didn't think it could make us better and stronger because of it. So at the foundation of it all is my faith. And going on from that is just a purpose as to why are you doing what you're doing? I had to ask myself that so many times. Why are you doing this, Noelle? What's the point? Like, this is just like a dumb sport. You go head first, 90 miles an hour, like you're steering your way down. But who really cares? In the long run, who really cares? What's the point? And I had to do it for something bigger than myself. I had to find a reason that wasn't just for me, or to figure, or for a medal or a trophy or whatever. I had to really take time to realize, why am I doing this? And once I could realize it was for my family, or it was for my daughter so that she could see, I had a daughter going into the 2010 games. In 2014, we had our daughter and son. And I had to say, I'm doing it for them to know that mom can do hard things. We can do hard things. Mom and dad are working together towards a really hard goal, and so can we. We can do hard things. Yeah. That was one of my deeper purposes. And some of it was just to show gratitude to my collegiate coaches or high school teachers or neighborhood, Sunday school teachers or something like that. But just to show that, like, good can come. Good can come if we're willing to stand up for what we believe in, and really willing to work for what is good, what is right, what is hard, and help others along the way. So that was really the essence, like, right? That was like kind of the meat, is like, it couldn't just be to be a champion in skeleton. That wasn't enough for me. It had to be a deeper purpose.
So you mentioned your family, having a couple kids along the way. How did they like just offer, and obviously your family growing up, how they been involved in your journey? I remember seeing them, when you won the silver medal, and just the love that you all shared together. That was really inspiring. But obviously they've been an important part of your family. Like, how how have they been involved? Like, did you take your kids to practice and things like
Yeah,
that?
they're central. They
Yeah.
were central in all of it. I had to, we can talk for hours and hours, but one of the things I really had to figure out was life balance
Yeah.
and figuring out priorities and what mattered most in my life. And so, whether you are working full time, whether you're a stay at home parent, whether you have, so many other responsibilities and hats that you wear civically or within your community in whatever way, I've learned that you have to find life balance and make time for the things that matter most. So for me, I knew that family was central from the very beginning. Even after when I was going into skeleton in the beginning, it was just me, and then when I got married, it was me and myself and my husband. And then after I got hit by the bobsled, we were already planning on having kids. We wanted to start the next chapter in our life. And we said, well, I don't think it's possible to be an Olympian and a mom, right? Like, I don't think you could do that. Nobody does that. Like, what? There are more that do it now. Back then, there weren't that many.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And so we're like, I don't know that this is possible. And then we said, but why? Like, why can't it be? What if we have the right support system and the right pieces in place? Can we make this work? Is it possible? And we said, yeah, I think it could be possible. So we had Lacey, and then I went back to compete. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, is it possible? And I'm like, I missed her first birthday. I missed her first steps. I missed her first words. It's me saying goodbye at an airport, and I would be gone for months at a time, and I'd come back, and it was just hard. It was really, really hard to miss all that time with her. And so after retiring in 2010, finishing 4th place in Vancouver, and retiring, I said, I'm done. I can tell that my heart wants to be at home. My heart wants to be more of a mom than what I've been being. And so I knew that needed to change in my life. We had Trayson, our little guy, and then he's not little anymore. He's 13, but, but we had our 2 kids, and then we're pregnant with the 3rd and had a miscarriage. Like, there's another bobsled that hits you on a Tuesday morning that you're just not ready for. You just don't expect it. And when that came, I knew again, like, now what? Like, in despair and feeling hope, out of hope and feeling extremely sad, not knowing where to go, what to look forward to. Jansen came up and said, how would you feel about coming out of retirement and going back to compete? And it was in that conversation, that discussion, that it came about from both of us that I decided I would go back to compete if we could do it as a family. Yeah. Only if we could do it as a family, because that was my priority. That was that was where, what mattered most was having them there. And so we said, I don't know how, but when you don't know how to do something, it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means you need to think in a different way. It means you need to think outside the box and find a way. If you really want something, you can find a way to make it happen. And so we did. So we researched, we asked, we fundraised, and Jansen did a lot of that. And so for the next 2 years leading into the 2014 games, they were right by my side, and a huge integral part about that, because my husband designed and built my sled, and Lacey and Trayson, our 2 kids, traveled with us. So I didn't feel like I had to choose between 2 great things. I got to combine them together, and it just made all the difference in the world.
Wow. I'd forgotten that he made your sled.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
amazing.
Awesome. I was like, you take it down first. I don't know about this.
Has he ever been down?
He has, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
He's been down a few times. The last time he went, he split his chin open, and I don't think he's been back since. We'll probably get him on a sled just to get over that fear.
So take us down a run. What is that feeling like?
It is like, I need to think of a better analogy for this, because it is like, oh man, what is it like? I would imagine it's kind of like sticking your face in front of a jet engine, and it's like your cheeks are like shaking like this, and the wind is like blowing past you, and you can't hear anything except the sound of the wind. When you're on your sled, you just feel the vibration. It's just constant, like shaking, rattling, like you're on top of a dryer, like a really violent dryer, washing machine or something like that. And your head, when you go into a corner, it actually gets suctioned down to the ice. So your helmet oftentimes will be dragging on the ice.
Just because
So
of the G forces on it.
yeah, we hit 5 to 6 G forces of pressure. So it's a lot, and it just suctions you down. And you're hearing the wind blowing by, and you just see the white ice flying past your face. And then you have to steer. So aside from like the feelings that you're feeling all over your body and hearing and your senses, every sense is being drawn in.
Yeah.
Aside from that, you have to be able to steer your sled every 100th of a second, every millimeter of the track. You're doing something. You're active or passive in your motions, but it has to be intentional. So you're constantly pushing and pulling and breathing. And if you breathe in the wrong spot, you're going to crash, because if you let out your breath, it's going to steer your sled in a certain direction. So you have to time that too. And so everything matters. One of my favorite quotes is, by small and simple things are great things brought to pass.
Yeah.
And that is so true in life. It's so true in sports. And I realized that in skeleton, that it's the little things that make the biggest differences. Little things make a huge difference.
Wow. So it's the millimeters on the
Yes,
on the
millimeters,
ice.
just teeny tiny.
Wow. Like I can't.
Who wants to do skeleton?
I
now?
know, right? I mean, it's exhilarating though at the same time, right? And,
Yeah, it's extremely, very exhilarating.
Man. So walk us through. Let's go to your Olympic silver medal moments and walk us through kind of that experience on the ice.
Yeah. Man, where to start? Well, leading into the games, a couple things, I guess, with that. One thing I'm extremely, extremely grateful for, and this is just a tip to the listeners, is that I chose to define what success would look like for myself before I even started going. So, think about that, whether it's with your finances or your physical health or your family or your relationships. Most of the time we miss the mark because we just simply don't take the time to pause and reflect and think about where we want to go. And for me, I'm so grateful that I chose to make time to think ahead and to say, okay, like a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, what does success look like to me? Yeah. What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And so before I even competed, I knew what success looked like to me. And if I had defined success as the world wanted to define it, the world wanted to, and by saying the world, I just mean like everybody's comments, social media, any kind of interviews that took place. They would put the microphone in my face and say, oh, when you win the gold medal, the gold medal, because I had been winning leading into that 2014 Olympic game moment. Yeah. I had been winning gold medal on so many World Cup races that I was expected to win the gold at Sochi, Russia. And so anything less by the world standards meant that I fell short.
Yeah.
But for myself, I didn't define success by the color of my medal. I defined it as standing up for my values, being true to who I was, keeping my standards high, taking my family along for a journey. It was a whole slew of who I am is what I stood for, right? Like my values and things like that. So whether I took first, whether I took fourth, whether I took last, I knew going into those Olympic Games that if I stood up for what I believed in, that was enough for me. That was success. That would be success. If I crashed and finished dead last, or if I just completely messed up and made so many mistakes and finished dead last, who am I? Am I going to punch a hole in a wall? Am I going to yell? Am I going to swear? Am I going to put other people down? Is that who I am? Is that success? And I knew that if I had an unsuccessful race, that success would still be how I represented myself, my family, my community, my country in that moment. And so when I crossed the finish line at the Sochi, Russia Games in second place, right? Second place, to a lot of people, that was falling short. That was just just missing the mark. To a lot of the people that were like, gold medal, gold medal, gold medal.
Yeah.
And when I saw my coach, I came across the finish line after my fourth and final run. I steered across that finish line, And I looked up and I saw him come into the track and threw his arms in the air, just waving them, just pumping them. And I knew it was enough. I didn't know if it was gold, silver, or bronze, and I didn't care because I had given my absolute best. I had felt like I had represented myself and my family and country well. And I remember just getting off my sled, embracing him. And the cute volunteers were like, you need to go over here. You need to go with NBC and get images. And I'm like, no. I need to go up there with my family.
Yeah.
And I jumped up into the stands and embraced my husband and my 2 kids and my siblings and my parents and friends and family. And I just remember all I could say as I embraced my husband was, we did it. We did it. And that was it. Like, we did it. We won a silver medal and that was success. So my tip would just be, take time to define what success is. Whether you have little kids at home, what is success today? What is success for them? What is success for yourself? Or if you're empty nesters, or if you have a really hard job, what does success look like? Define it for yourself and head in that direction.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. Define your own success. And then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter as long as you are. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you retired after that.
Yay! Don't I look like a retiree?
No, you don't. That's your second retirement too. So actually, before we get into retirement, right? I just want to ask, I'm curious. What's your favorite track?
Oh, that's a good question. So every track in the world is different.
Yeah.
I love Park City because it's my home track.
Yeah.
I love Lake Placid, New York, because I've probably been down it more than any other track in the world because they have a training center there. And so we'd oftentimes stay there for a month or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
But my favorite track is St. Moritz, Switzerland.
Okay.
And it is because it's the longest track in the world, but also it's the only track that does not have a refrigeration system. So there's no mechanical, parts associated with it. They actually, if you've seen the movie Frozen, and you know that song in the beginning when they're chipping away at the ice and they're getting blocks out of the ice and they're carrying it to the town,
yeah,
that is St. Moritz, Switzerland. They cut the blocks out of the lake and they build the track piece by piece, hand by hand, every single year. And we go close to 90 miles an hour on it. It is beautiful. There are no, every other track in the world has little gaps every maybe 15 feet because it's where the concrete, they had to build, every other track is built by concrete and they had to piece it together like a puzzle. So they need sections where it has a little gap. So it feels like you're going down. It's like ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. So it's really choppy when you're going down all the other tracks. In St. Moritz, Switzerland, they do not have that. And so it's just so smooth and so flowy and you don't have any of those bumps or ripples. And I absolutely love it.
That's so I want to make sure I understand this. I mean, they have the guts of the track.
Yeah, they have, it's kind of like a mountain biking path. It almost looks like a wide mountain biking path in the summer. So they have berms that come up and then it kind of goes long. And so they have it mapped out every summer, cut into the dirt, just kind of like where it would normally be. And then on a couple of the corners that you might fly out of, they actually have built in a piece of wood up at the top of the dirt mound so that they know where it needs to go. But other than that, they just put the ice on and they're amazing at it. They've mastered their trade and usually it's handed down from generation to generation to work on the track. And it's a very special privilege. So it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's a bucket list item. Go see that. So, all right, let's talk about life after competition, right? Was it difficult to navigate from being an athlete to, your current career, what do you do now? Tell me that and kind of how did you navigate that?
Great question, John. And I think that's kind of a 2-part. So first of all, I'm just full of tips today, but take them or leave them. I could feel the sadness and the challenge that was coming from closing a chapter in my life that I absolutely loved. Mm-hmm. So, and maybe sometimes you don't love it, but you've been doing it for so long. So if you think about that, whether it's, you're getting close to retirement or empty nesters, any of these big changes that take place in your life, you're aging parents and you're helping to take care of them, something like that. In any of these changes, I think it's just imperative that we find hope for the future, that we look forward to doing things and to learning and growing. And I could feel this kind of sadness and discouragement coming even before the 2014 games took place. And so not knowing where I was going to put my time and my energy and what to do next and feeling kind of empty inside, I determined to create a bucket list. And I know that sounds kind of maybe cliche or whatever, but my husband and I danced, and we ended up sitting down and just saying, okay, like instead of seeing this as a sad moment, a sad time, like things are coming to an end, let's change the way we view it and find excitement in it. Wow, this is coming to an end, so that's going to leave all these hours and time to do whatever we would like to do. And it was harder to like convince myself of that than it might seem, because I really did love doing that. But I had to like flip the way that I saw it and say, I get to do whatever I want with my time now. I don't have to spend my time doing this. So, okay. So 2 weeks before the Olympic Games, I was already trying to think past the Olympic Games.
Interesting.
So that I had something. So I knew when I ended that race, it wouldn't be sad tears and crying. I'd say, guess what? Now I have a goal to write a book. And I did. And I wrote a book, Focused. And then I said, and guess what? Now I want to learn Spanish. And my husband wanted to get his master's degree. So we moved to Costa Rica for 2 years after the Olympic Games. We said, let's go. Like, we get to do this because we're not tied down to competition. So we moved. I learned Spanish. He got his degree. And we said, guess what? Now we can learn constellations and learn how to tie knots. And I get to paint with Bob Ross. Like, I love that. There's so many things that we can be doing if we just have the courage to try and take the time to think about what we want. Again, what is success? Take time to say, who do I really want to become? This is who I am today, but is this who do I want to become by the end of the year? Am I going in the right direction, or what needs to change because of that? So anyway, that is what really has propelled me forward these past 10 years since that Olympic moment, and just constantly looking forward to new things, new endeavors, new experiences, and never growing old in mind or body because of limitations or things that aren't happening anymore. So now you were asking, what am I doing now? So same thing, like I'm still just loving setting new goals. I mentioned Bob Ross because I painted with him last week, and that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
He says I'm also writing. So I love writing. I've realized that I have a passion for writing. And so that's something that listeners can do, is they can join a newsletter that I'm writing every single week, sharing stories like these Olympic tips and wisdom. And I love using stories to gear it towards a moral or a principle. So you can check that out on my website. Maybe we can add a link or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So I was going somewhere with this one. Oh, okay. Yeah. With Bob Ross. Okay. Yeah. He says there are no mistakes, only happy accidents, but he has not seen my painting. Like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. It's like, funny. It's like a mud pit, but I am getting better. And I'm still enjoying it. And it's just fun. And he's so therapeutic. So how could you not? He
is. His voice is just like so calming.
Oh my goodness.
I actually have done the paint by numbers.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, it's so much fun. It's so relaxing. And
so relaxing.
Yeah. So, that's awesome. So couple last questions. What advice do you have for young aspiring athletes, or let me ask it a different way, young aspiring professionals?
Okay. Yeah. I would say, young aspiring professionals. There's a handful of, there's quite a bit of advice that you could offer, but I think at the heart of it, number one is to know who you are and know where you want to go. Yeah. There's no limits to your possibilities. I mean, just like, painting with Bob Ross or learning constellations or learning Spanish. And I know those are trivial in some ways, but there's no limits to what you can do, but you need to first really kind of dive into who you are and what you want. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And some of the ways that we can do that is to say, okay, at the end of my life, if I'm, 99 years old and I know the end is coming and I'm looking back and I think, wow, what an incredible life I lived. It's incredible because what would you say? What does that look like to you? And if you can put yourself as a 99-year-old person and you're sitting in that rocking chair or whatever, wherever you are, why are you grateful you did what you did? And what is it that you did? What do you see? What do you feel? And if you can begin with the end in mind. I love that quote. Begin with the end in mind, right? See where you want to be and now put yourself there today. Become that person that your future self is going to be grateful for. Become that person. Make the habits today. Do the little things today. Create those healthy habits. Maybe it's waking up a little earlier. Maybe it's shutting off your social media or putting limits on it. Maybe it's going to bed a little earlier or doing service a little more. Or, who knows? The opportunities are endless. But whoever that is when you're 99 and you look back and say, I lived an amazing life. Is it because you have a lot of money? Is it because you have a lot of loved ones? What does that look like? And whatever it is to you, start being that today.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. That's awesome. You mentioned legacy. I wanted to ask you about the legacy that you hope to leave in not only the world of sports, but your personal and professional legacy, and goals moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I hope to leave a legacy that is inspirational. I hope to share any wisdom that I have. I hope to learn from others, and I hope to share with others that there is so much good in this world.
Yeah.
Despite all the bad going on and all the evil that takes place or whatever's going on with politics, whatever side you're on, there is so much good in this world, and to be a part of the good.
Yeah.
Just to join the good. Stand up for what you believe in, fight for what you know to be true, whatever that is, whatever that is that you feel strongly about. Be a light and inspire and an inspiration to others around you. I think that would be the legacy that I would hope to leave. It's a very simple one, just to continue to do good, and be good and be the good that you hope to see in the world.
That's awesome. Well, you are definitely inspirational. I've written like a ton of notes about how I can be better.
John,
but Noelle, thanks so much. You definitely are an inspiration. You do so much good for, the community. And where can people follow you online?
So you could follow me on at Noelle Pikus Pace on Instagram, on Facebook. I have a website, Noelle Pikus Pace. It's NoellePikus PACE. And if you go to my website, I have a newsletter, and that is really what I am just really loving doing, is just taking stories and writing. And I have a goal to write 2 articles every week, and you can either skip them, pass them along if you like them, or if you feel that somebody else could use some inspiration. I'd appreciate it. I'm
gonna go log on and get the newsletter right now.
You're amazing, John.
Noelle, thanks so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all of your success, and we look forward to following you on your newsletter.
Thanks so much, John. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Rings. We encourage you to rate and share the podcast. And if there is any topic you would like us to cover, leave us a comment. See you next time.